Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Goaltending, where your why is bigger than your excuses. I'm so excited to get into step 5 of the 5-step process to goaltending with you today. We're going to go over a recap of steps 1 through 4, touch on the 5-step process. And before I do that, first, I just want to remind you, it goes a long way to like, comment with your thoughts and questions, subscribe to the channels, the platforms, help this content grow. I know that you know somebody out there that can benefit from the 5-step process, the guests that come on the show and share their knowledge and experience. So I just want to ask you all, please share it. Comment with your thoughts and questions. Let's really talk about these things to help each other grow and to spread positivity and opportunity to really just live a life of fulfillment. So make sure you do that. I do want to remind you, today's episode is fueled by prepping with peppers. And now I just want to get right into the recap real quick. Step 1, identify your start and finish. That's just getting very clear on what your goal is, where you want to be, and where you are right now. The start and finish. This is one long race. So once you figure that out, step 2 is identify what you have. This is taking your personal inventory, figuring out the knowledge, skills, and resources that you need to help you accomplish your goal. These are the things you already have. Once you identify that, step 3 is make a plan for progress. So making that plan, this is about putting together what obstacles you expect to face on the path to pursuing and achieving this goal. Once you know what obstacles you expect to face, you can figure out how you're going to overcome those obstacles by leveraging the knowledge, skills, and resources that you have. Now, part of that is you may identify that there are gaps between what knowledge, skills, and resources you have to overcome obstacles and what you will need to be able to overcome them. So part of your plan also includes figuring out what kind of gaps there are in the things that you have to help you reach your goal and what you actually need. And once you figure out that gap, part of your plan needs to include how you fill the gap, how you overcome those things so that you can make sure you have everything that you need to be able to accomplish your goal. Then we get into step 4. That's take consistent action. So we're taking action every single day toward our goal. And it's not just waking up and making sure that we do something that day, hoping that we figure it out or find time. It's about thinking in advance of what things you need to do every day. So you can set up a plan a week in advance, but every night before you go to bed, you should know already in your mind what things I need to accomplish the next day in order for it to be a success. That way you go into the day waking up with a plan in place and with a purpose for your day. Now, once you have that all in place, you've got your plan laid out, you know everything that you have and need to accomplish your goal, what obstacles you expect to face and how you'll overcome them, and you have your action plan in place and you're taking action daily toward the goal. So step 5 is review and refine. Step 5 is ongoing. It's a part of every other step in the process. You should be reviewing and refining your plan and the actions that you take at every single step in the process. And so what's really the importance of reviewing and refining? That is that as you get started, life is going to change. The knowledge, the skills, the resources you currently have, you may identify that they're not as useful toward this goal as you thought they would be. You may identify that the things you needed to gain are going to be harder to accomplish. You may have just personal life circumstances that get in the way, that make you have to come up with a new game plan. And as you gain new knowledge, skills, and resources, you have to adapt your plan to having these new capabilities. There's a ton of things that can happen, that can get in the way, that can change. And so it's very important that you are frequently reviewing and refining your plan, because that means it's going to change the way in which you approach obstacles. It may change the obstacles that you face, and it can very likely change the types of daily actions that you're needing to take. And then another consideration is with having your goal set, you also set a date to that goal. And so part of your reviewing and refining is checking in on your actual timeline and your progress. Are you being as productive as you said you were going to? Are you sticking to your timeline? Are you ahead of your timeline? And if so, do you need to scale back to make room for other things? Or are you actually able to accomplish more than you thought you could and you can accelerate your timeline? So there's a whole lot of things to consider, but because things are constantly changing and adapting, you have to be flexible. You have to be able to adapt your plan. And so what I want to start with, where I'm talking about you have the timeline set, you know when you want to accomplish your goal by, and with that means you need to identify how frequently you should be reviewing and refining your plan. So it can be a daily touch point. It can be a weekly, a quarterly. Part of it depends on how far out this goal is. So the farther out the goal is, the less frequently you may need to check in. But the more frequently you check in, the better. Because if you are off track, if you're not sticking to your timeline, if you are falling short in your daily actions, if there's obstacles that have come up that you didn't expect, if any of those things are happening, the sooner you identify them and the sooner that you adjust and the sooner that you adapt your plan, the sooner you will be able to be more productive and effective in working toward it. So I recommend weekly. If it is something that's a few months or even a year, if you can really check in with yourself weekly on the progress, it's going to help you stick to that timeline. It's going to help you continue to rapidly adjust. Now, that doesn't mean that it only has to be weekly. Let's say you just had a check-in, but 2 days later, something completely throws a wrench in your plans, or you lose a loved one or your job, or just some kind of significant life event happens. Now, first you need to spend some time processing whatever that is, because some things require a step back, require you to take some time. And it may be that you need to step away for a moment just to really focus on yourself and your mental health and whatever it is that's going on in your life. But as at your earliest convenience, as soon as you are able to, you need to look at how that impacts your plan. You may not want to wait a whole nother week before you get there if something significant happens. But it's all about adjusting to whatever the situation is. You may need some time. You may not be able to get to it right away. But the sooner the better, so that you can actually adapt and get back on track or continue to make progress, even if it's in a different way. So you want to think about that. But then the other thing with having that regular check-in with at least weekly is that you're regularly thinking about what it is you want to accomplish. It's constantly in the back of your mind. By having that weekly check-in, it helps you to maintain motivation and accountability. Both things that we've talked about in previous episodes, previous steps of the process. Maintaining motivation is crucial. And so when you are regularly checking in, it's going to help keep it fresh in your mind, but also it's going to help you see that you are making progress. You are moving forward. And that creates positive emotion. That helps to boost that motivation to keep you on track, to make you want to keep taking action. So keep that peace in mind, and then checking in regularly and sticking to your scheduled check-ins, it helps with accountability. Whether that is you just checking in with yourself, knowing exactly what things that you want to evaluate, look at, check in on, and refine in your plan, or if it's sitting down and going over that with somebody else. Now, if you got an accountability partner and that's something that you're using, that you want to make sure that you're consistent, that you show up, that you're timely, and you use the time effectively whenever you sit down to review and refine your plan. Now, one of the things that you want to have in that reviewing and refining is knowing what milestones you have along the journey. Like, what are some of those big stepping stones that are significant on the path to accomplishing the goal? Now, you should have those things outlined already, but you may think of new ones. Something may become significant. So you want to continuously also think about the milestones that are important to you along the way to your goal. There's multiple reasons why. Those are things that help you stick to your timeline. They're opportunities to celebrate and to recognize the progress that you've made. This whole process is not just about goal accomplishment. It's about finding fulfillment in the journey, not waiting until you accomplish the goal to feel fulfilled or to feel happy. Because just accomplishing one thing, it's a short-lived moment. It's a small portion of your life, but everything in between, those are the things that make up your life. Those are the things that matter. So you want to be fulfilled in those moments. So having milestones and celebrating them on the way, those are things to help with that fulfillment in the journey, with finding that enjoyment, with recognizing that even small steps forward is progress towards your goal. So keep that in mind as you're working toward this. All right, so when it comes to actually reviewing and refining your plan, you need to set clear metrics or clear questions that you want to ask yourself or evaluate when you go to review and refine. It can be whatever you feel serves you best, but a few examples might be things like, am I sticking to my daily actions? Am I on track with the timeline? If I'm not, how do I adjust? Can I do more? Am I doing too much? How far am I from my next milestone? And am I on track to hit it? Am I doing a good job of maintaining accountability? And if not, how can I adjust how I stay accountable to the goal? How do I feel motivation-wise? Like, am I feeling motivated still? Or am I struggling with motivation? Because maybe in identifying that right now I'm struggling with motivation, I can adjust the way in which I'm approaching the goal. I can try to find some inspiration to re-spark that motivation. But it's really important that you consider that, because you're not just going to be motivated all the time. And if you recognize that you're no longer motivated, you may be able to adjust some of the actions you're taking to specifically focus on regaining motivation or ensuring that you have consistency within your plan so that you're still making progress, whether you're motivated or not. So that's a really crucial, important one right there to think about. But ultimately, it's not a one size fits all, because it depends on what your goal is, what your life circumstances are, what things are changing, what knowledge, skills, and resources you're applying, what other things that can happen on the journey to reaching the goal. And so keep that in mind, but make sure that when you set up your review, your touch points, whether it's weekly or whether it's a bi-weekly or monthly, whatever you choose to be best for you based on the goal you're pursuing and how far out you are from it, just make sure that you have good questions and know exactly what it is that you're measuring against. If you understand how your performance is doing in relation to the goals that you set for yourself, it allows you to see if you're actually on track, if you're actually performing well. And if you're not, then it at least builds some awareness so that you can modify either your actions or your plan or your goal or whatever you need to adjust to stay fulfilled, to stay making progress, and to stay moving and working toward where you want to be. Now, I briefly want to go through the review and the refine piece of each step in the process, because you may need to go all the way back to step one of identifying your start and finish. The finish line may move on you. You may modify the goal or need to modify the goal based on things that have happened in life that may no longer be exactly what you want. Or maybe you know more about the goal now, so you are able to adjust or add more clarity to what the finish line is. So part of reviewing is looking back, is that still my finish line? Is that still exactly what I'm going for, what I want to aim for and put my effort toward? Your starting line is constantly moving. Every single day, I'm no longer at that starting point. I'm at a new starting point today that should hopefully be closer to the finish line. So as you review and refine, continue to look back at where you are at that moment versus where you want to be? And is where you want to be the same as when you initially started? So make sure you're looking at that when you go back to step 1. Health, fitness, fat loss, sleep, all goals that are impacted by the fuel you put into your body. I've tried meal prepping at home, and I've tried multiple meal prep companies, including those that deliver, but I'll be honest, nothing has been better than the meals I get from Prepping with Peppers. They offer fresh, never frozen meals on a weekly rotating basis, so you don't have to get tired of eating the same meals over and over again. So save yourself some time for the things that matter most by ordering your meals at preppingwithpeppers.com. Step 2, identifying what you have, your knowledge, skills, and resources. You should know more today than you did yesterday. You may have gained relationships along the way that you didn't have when you started. So there's skills, knowledge, and resources that are constantly developing and growing. So look back at, do I have new knowledge, skills, or resources, new things in my toolkit that are going to help me overcome more obstacles? And maybe I'm aware of more obstacles that are coming. So as you get to step 3 and making a plan for progress, you can look and validate, are the obstacles that I expected to face, do I still expect to face them? What things have I overcome already? And am I actually aware of some obstacles now that I didn't initially expect? So you're looking at those obstacles, and based on the updates to your knowledge, skills, and resources, are you equipped to still handle them more effectively, or to handle the ones that you didn't expect? And if not, you may identify more gaps, more things that you need to develop. So it's important that you're going back to that plan regularly, and you're reviewing it for what you already went through and seeing if any updates or changes need to be made. And then step 4, that taking consistent action, going after it daily. The really big piece with reviewing and refining is making sure that you are giving yourself appropriate rest, that you're maintaining good mental health along the journey, that you feel good about what you're pursuing, that there's purpose behind it, that you're revisiting your why. And then as you're looking at the actions, you ask yourself, are they helping me get where I want to be when I want to be there? Like, am I on track? Am I behind? Do I need to do more actions? Do I need to take a step back for my mental health, or for my well-being, or for the sake of rest, or because there's a new life circumstance that I didn't expect? Does that modify my timeline? There's a lot of things to consider, but you can go back, and there's so many things that you can review and refine consistently throughout the process. Now, if you are checking in with yourself regularly, let's say you are checking in once a week, there may not have been huge updates to that. So this isn't always going to be a huge, elaborate process that takes a long time going through every step. You may be able to look at, like, I did pretty good this week. I'm on track. The actions that I'm taking are suiting me. I feel good. I'm motivated. There may not be a lot to update, but you checked in. And doing that and sticking to your check-in and just making sure, like, oh yeah, I'm on track. Everything's great. Maintain that motivation. Maintain that accountability. They're good things that are going to help continue to feel good about what you're doing, help with that fulfillment that we're talking about. So I really think that this is just a crucial step in the process that is constantly happening in every single step. I made it last, but it's really fluid in terms of where it is in the process, because it all depends on what you need. Now, I'll give a brief example just of my own journey of this year. And I won't go too in depth, but I just want to show you what reviewing and refining really looks like in real time. And I set a goal this year of writing my first book about the 5-step process to goaltending and having it completed no later than the end of December. Like, having the entire book written this year, not necessarily fully revised or ready to publish yet, but I want it completely written, all of the content material together. And so I set that goal for myself this year, and I visualized it. it means something to me. I still have my why. I still want this to happen. But there's been multiple things, multiple obstacles that I didn't necessarily expect or plan for, or there's been new opportunities that align with my long-term goals that I've chosen to make a higher priority right now. And it's made it to where most likely I'm not going to complete writing the book this year for multiple reasons. I knew that I had a military education course that I needed to do this year. That's an obstacle that I expected. I knew was going to happen. I didn't quite think about how big of a time commitment it was going to be, how much time it would take outside of work and everything else that I'm doing. And maintaining the podcast is extremely important to me. And so it comes to a point with time and the commitment I have to or need to put toward that military education course. That time has to come from somewhere. So it's either I sacrifice rest, which will ultimately really only be able to be a short-term play, and this is a year-long course, or I need to make sure that I'm not taking away from my sleep, and it needs to come from somewhere else. And so I knew that maintaining the podcast is a higher priority and a long-term connection to where I want to be and what my long-term goals are. Then the next thing is there's been other opportunities that I didn't previously plan for that align with my long-term goals and wanting to coach and public speak. And they're things that I think better help in progressing toward what I need, what I want to do, and everything that I'm building toward with my long-term goals. And because I feel that those things are better suited to put my energy and time toward right now, that time, once again, I have to prioritize what the time goes toward. And so in recognizing some of these new unexpected things and challenges, I've decided that sticking to that timeline does not serve me this year, because it would significantly impact either my rest or my mental health to be able to balance and juggle all of the different things. And on top of that, there's been unexpected investment opportunities that my wife and I decided to go after that also require time and energy to put toward those. And so just multiple things that some of it was planned obstacles that just ended up being more of a time requirement. Some were unexpected obstacles and all positive and good things. So an obstacle doesn't have to be a negative thing, but it does create the consideration of prioritizing and having to choose what's most important right now and what aligns with the very long-term goals the most to help with prioritizing, and then choosing to put the energy toward the things that are, most pertinent and going to make the most impact right now. And so with that, I reviewed, refined my plan, and said it's more realistic that the book will be written next year so that I can focus on the other higher priorities to me that align with my long-term goals. And so that's just a brief example from my own personal journey, my own personal life that allows me to still maintain fulfillment, to still be making progress, working toward where I want to be long-term, but it just required that I adjust one of my more short-term goals. Ultimately, you will get out of the 5-step process what you put into it. And I'm not so naive to think that there's not 100 different ways to pursue a goal out there. This is just a way. It's a kind of guide to help you, to remind you of what you're working toward. But it really doesn't matter which path you choose to take, whether you use the 5-step process to goaltending or you find some other model. The ultimate thing is that you're finding fulfillment and working toward the goal, that you are committing yourself to something that gives you purpose, that makes you feel fulfilled, that you're passionate about. Like that's what this is all about. It's not about having a rigid process and just sticking to it. I need to make progress every day and sacrificing your whole life. No, you have to build in fun. You have to build in enjoyment. And so I really just love taking the opportunity to just share a way to reach and accomplish your goals and to find fulfillment while you're doing it. So I just want to thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode, for really tuning in to the journey, to allowing me to be a part of what you're working toward. It really means the world. I find my fulfillment in that. And so I just want to ask you to, like, subscribe, share it with someone it can help, and comment with your thoughts and questions to join the conversation. And let's grow.